Jesus moved through towns and seas with a quiet gravity that made the ordinary feel fragile and the impossible feel near. His miracles are not showmanship for spectacle's sake. They are windows, small, startling apertures through which heaven touches the daily world. In them the hungry are fed, the shamed are restored, the storm is hushed, and the dead are summoned back into the light. Each sign is a sentence in a larger sentence, a lesson about who comes close to us and what his presence does to what we once thought immutable. At a wedding in Cana, beneath lantern light and the murmur of kinship, the celebration reached the brittle edge of shame when the wine ran out. In that slender, human embarrassment, the kingdom begins its quiet work. Mary speaks with the certainty of hope and leaves the rest to him. He asks for water, not to dazzle but to be entrusted with the small and ordinary things of life, oars used for washing, servants who obey without understanding, hands that fill and pour. The change is not loud. It is sovereign and intimate. Water becomes wine, and not merely serviceable wine but the finest reserved for a reason beyond custom. This is the gospel in miniature. The God who can turn scarcity into abundance chooses the low place to show his glory. The miracle undoes the world's hierarchy of value. The last becomes first. The overlooked becomes the sign. In one gentle action, Jesus reshapes joy itself, teaching that salvation often begins in the most domestic corners of our lives. Not long after, on a dark sea, the same presence meets fear. The disciples wake him with the raw cry of people who do not understand why God would sleep while the world breaks. Wind and water rage with a voice older than their courage. The boat is small against that roar. Jesus rises and speaks. His word cuts through the tumult as if naming a thing makes it obey. The command is simple: be still. The storm obeys. Silence falls like a hand laid on a fevered brow. Here the lesson is not only power but presence, authority that comforts, not terror. Control that creates peace rather than awe for its own sake. The miracle reveals a God who stands over chaos but bends toward the trembling heart. Where the first sign transformed shame into abundance, this one transforms fear into shelter. Together they show a God who meets human need in its truest forms, the need for dignity and the need for peace. Having seen water transformed and storms silenced, we now step further into the mystery. Part 2. First miracle. Jesus walks on water. Night stretches across the Sea of Galilee, and the disciples find themselves once again alone with the wind. The boat strains against the waves. Progress is slow, and strength fades with every oar stroke. In the darkest watch of the night, a figure approaches, not from the shore, but from the deep itself. Fear grips them. What comes toward them feels unreal, impossible, threatening. Then the voice cuts through the terror. It is I. Do not be afraid. He walks where no human footing should exist, as though chaos itself has become a pathway beneath his feet. When Peter dares to step out, faith holds him until fear speaks louder. Jesus reaches out, not in rebuke but in rescue. This miracle teaches that faith is not the absence of fear, but the courage to move toward Christ in the middle of it. Even when belief falters, his hand is already extended. Second miracle. Feeding the 5,000. Soon after, a vast crowd gathers in a desolate place, drawn by his words and works. Evening comes, and with it hunger, practical, physical, undeniable. The disciples see scarcity: 5 loaves, 2 fish, and thousands of empty hands. Jesus sees a table. He takes what is offered, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it back. The fragments pass from hand to hand, and somehow there is enough, not barely enough, but abundance. Everyone eats. Everyone is satisfied. 12 baskets remain, silent witnesses to generosity that does not measure, count, or fear loss. Here the miracle speaks of provision that begins with surrender. When little is placed in his hands, it becomes more than sufficient. He feeds not only bodies, but the deeper hunger for care, value, and belonging. These signs press the story forward. The one who treads on water and multiplies bread is showing that nothing, not fear, not need, not lack, stands outside his reach. In the next part, we will witness provision once more and a calling renewed, as nets fill with fish and lives are redirected by grace. The miracles of Jesus continue to unfold like a steady unveiling, each one deepening what has already been shown. By now it is clear that his power is not random, and his compassion is not accidental. What he touches is not only the world around him, but the inner direction of those who follow. In this part, the signs move from provision to calling, from nourishment to purpose. Along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, after a long and fruitless night, tired fishermen clean empty nets. Effort has been spent. Hope has thinned. Jesus steps into Simon Peter's boat and asks him to push out a little from the land. After teaching the crowd, he gives an unexpected instruction: put out into deep water, and let down the nets for a catch. The request defies experience. Fishermen know when the sea gives and when it refuses, yet obedience opens the door to abundance. The nets plunge and strain beneath a weight they cannot contain. Fish fill them to the breaking point. In awe and fear, Peter falls at Jesus' knees. Sensing that he stands before holiness itself, Jesus does not reject him. He calls him. Do not be afraid, from now on you will catch people. This miracle reveals that obedience precedes understanding, and calling is often born in places of exhaustion. God steps into ordinary work and quietly transforms it into destiny. Much later, after the cross and the empty tomb, the disciples return to the sea, to what they once knew before everything changed. They fish through the night and catch nothing. At dawn, a stranger stands on the shore and calls out, asking if they have any food. Then comes the familiar instruction: cast the net on the right side. This time, recognition dawns with the weight in the net. It is the Lord. The catch is abundant once again. But now the meaning is fuller. This miracle is not a call into something new, but a restoration of what seemed broken. It tells them that failure has not erased their purpose. And returning to old places does not mean losing new life. Jesus meets them where they are and reminds them that resurrection is not only about life after death, it is about renewed direction. After disappointment, these signs speak quietly but firmly. Calling is sustained by presence. The one who first filled the nets still stands on the shore, guiding, restoring, and reminding his followers. These first three parts have done more than display wonders, they have opened a doorway. In Cana the ordinary was made sacred. On the lake the furious wind learned to be still. By the shoreline tired hands were given a new calling and the taste of resurrection's restoration. Together they sketch a God who meets our shame with abundance, our fear with peace, our exhaustion with purpose. If you have watched closely, you will have seen a single pattern, presence that changes everything it touches. If this journey has stirred you, stay with us. Subscribe to @Bible_History1 for the unfolding story. More signs and deeper meanings are coming. In part 4 we will witness provision again and a sharp word of judgment, the feeding of the 4,000 and the fig tree that withered. In part 5 we will close this series with a small, uncanny sign: the coin found in a fish's mouth, a final reminder of authority, provision, and responsibility. Subscribe to @Bible_History1 and don't miss the next parts. Come back and watch how the ordinary keeps becoming the place where heaven touches earth.